I have a near beer. I'm near beer. And if I'm near beer, I'm close to tequila. And if I'm close to tequila, I'm adjacent to cocaine. Happiness lies within oneself, and the way to dig out is cocaine. It's not the side effects of the cocaine. I'm thinking that it must be love. It's too late to be grateful. It's too late to be hateful. It's too late to be late again. The European canon is here. Cocaine everywhere. Everywhere I look. Demons of the future were on the battlegrounds of one's emotional plane. Of course, agreed Basil, if you spit it carelessly and act on it rashly with the blind faith of a fanatic, it might very well lead to trouble. But nature is full of devices for eliminating anything that cannot master its environment. The words to worship me are all important. The only excuse for using a drug of any sort, whether it's quinine or Epsom salt, is to assist nature to overcome some obstacle to her proper functions. The danger of the so-called habit-forming drugs is that they fool you into trying to dodge the toil essential to spiritual and intellectual development, but they are not simply man traps. There is nothing in nature which cannot be used for our benefit, and it is up to us to use it wisely. And now, in the work you have been doing in the last week, heroin might have helped you to concentrate your mind, and cocaine to overcome the effects of fatigue. And the reason you did not use them was that a burnt child dreads fire. We had the same trouble with teaching Hermes and Dionysus to swim. They found themselves in danger of being drowned and thought the best way was to avoid going near the water, but that didn't help them to use their natural faculties to the best advantage, so I made them confront the sea again and again until they decided what the best way to avoid drowning was to learn how to deal with oceans in every detail. It sounds pretty obvious when you put it like that, yet while everyone agrees with me about the swimming, I am howled down on all sides when I apply the same principles to the use of drugs. For the first 5 years that Coca-Cola was made, it was made with cocaine. They still used flavoring from the cocoa leaves to make Coca-Cola, spitting Viola. There's Ambien and alcohol. Weird. And then there's Ambien mistaken for cocaine. Weird. I, the unfortunate doctor, Polya Cove, who became addicted to morphine in February of this year, warned anyone who may suffer the same fate not to attempt to replace morphine with cocaine. Cocaine is a most foul and insidious poison. Yesterday, Anna barely managed to revive me with camphor injections, and today I am half dead. The division seems rather unfair, I remarked. You have done all the work in this busyness. I get a wife out of it. Jones gets the credit. Pray, what remains for you? For me, said Sherlock Holmes, there still remains the cocaine bottle. And he stretched his long white hand up for it. The original version of cocaine contained a small amount of cocoa extract, and therefore a trace of cocaine. It was eliminated early in the 20th century, though. Other extracts derived from cocoa leaves remain part of the drink to this day. Its creation was not the accidental concoction of an amateur experiment in his garden, but a deliberate and painstaking culmination of months of work by an experienced maker of quack remedies. Let these men sing out their songs. They've been walking all day long, all their fortunes spent and gone. Silver dollar in the subway station, quarters for the papers for the jobs. I didn't recognize it as such then because I was only 14 years old, but later I found it a bit ironic that my first time seeing a woman in all her form and glory and saggy drug-tainted tits arrived at the same exact time as my first introduction to death. Misery is a book coughing about cocaine. Annie Wilkes is cocaine. She was my number one fan, rhyming again and again about cocaine, I said. I'd planned to kill the almost hour finger in some phone apps whose offbeat missions and the Sinji logos had put the make on my contracted pupils. My contracted pupils, still as coke, can't seem to help but use its hope heads to accomplish. I found a quiet study of these apps beyond me, and soon enough my antsy friends and I were in a huddle, having misconstrued our need to chatter as the impetus for lectures and confused one another for captivated listeners at whom we could not spew enough. Dale noticed a good amount of cafe patrons venomously staring at him as he returned to his table after the verbal altercation. He could care less about other people's judgments, and most of these people weren't even people. They were sub-people with a subpar ideologies, and he was willing to bet half of them didn't even think that spectacle at the counter was reality, being that they were currently frying, stone blazed, tripping, or in some other way mentally incapacitated. Cocaine was the only drug Dale honored because it allowed him to retain his focus, didn't cloud the mind with distortions, was expensive, and went hand in hand with any successful Wall Street executive. I have done coke off the porcelain backs of public bathroom toilets, but mirrored a trays lent, some fox, a class to inhaling cartilage eating drugs up your nose. The idea becomes alluring and a little more acceptable when mere trays are involved. Excuse me, sir, I will have some of that high class cocaine. I was wondering if I was the only one who still wanted to grow and succeed, the only one who still believed in it at all, ultimately in Thomas and in Spain. Wonderful. Now what was I doing, dear? Playing chess with Bogdan. Oh, good. He made me scrambled eggs, and he gave Ron cocaine. What a champ. I'll get back to him. At one particular moment when my eyes closed, I was crying and asking a question over and over aloud. Does true love exist? Does true love exist in girls? Does true love exist? Does Sabrina love me? Does true love exist? Does true love exist? I had suddenly seen a flash, as if I was poking the devil in the dark, staring too long into the darkness until it looked back at me, as they say. I have never told anyone about this before. I try to describe what I had seen that night in that windowless, dark, and cold place deep inside under that big old building with my eyes closed, and made a half turn, flashing one of its eyes at me for a moment before disappearing again into the dark as if it was nodding to me. I still get goosebumps years later when I try to describe it, as if it had been standing there all along and just tried to reassure me that it had heard my question and would answer quite close, just to make me be quiet finally. My eyes were yellow and red. I'm not actually sure if it had two eyes. I only saw one of them, one evil eye. Perhaps he had lost an eye. That's why I had seen light. If only one of them, his eye was malicious, but not particularly. It was more tired and angry, yet understanding, as if he had heard this question over 1,000,000,000 times before from fools like me, and I did not amuse him with my question and demand, as if he was about to show me a trick he had known for a long time, as if Satan had seen it already. He knows all the tricks. He invented them. He inspired them all, as if he was bored of humanity already. There's only one evil eye, the planet Saturn. I was cuddling with Adam's cat, crying a lot, asking the darkness about love, and reflecting on Sabrina. Perhaps it was merely an optical illusion. I leave it up to the reader, the spitter, to decide what they believe about what I was facing and how I miraculously survived as an atheist goy, as well as who truly supported me throughout the ordeal. If anyone or anything supported me in Spain at all, I had seen an advertisement somewhere saying that Miss Kitten would be playing on Saturday night, November 16th, 2013 in Barcelona at the Marquise, Satan's Saturn, a Saturday. Coincidence? Maybe. So far, perhaps. I knew I had to see her again after such a long time. She had been playing a drum and bass in the early 2000s across the globe, and also in Budapest. I checked the map. The Marquise was next to Camp Nou, the FC Barcelona Stadium. I had thought of buying a bottle of champagne, which I didn't like unless it was Italian, but I wanted to celebrate. And I would walk along, the need Rome to get there straight. I knew I'd get drunk. I knew I'd get drunk. I didn't want to drive. I wanted to arrive intoxicated. I reposted that Miss Kitten, a party's flyer on Instagram right underneath it. All roads lead to Rome. All roads lead to Rome. I am permanently tripping on all the drugs for eternity. Thy infinite me is permanently tripping on all the drugs for eternity. Thy infinite me is high on all the drugs for eternity. It seems to me now that the plain state of being human is dramatic enough for anyone. You don't need to be a heroin addict or a performance poet to experience extremity. You just have to love someone. It's a good thing most people bleed on the inside, or this world, or this would be a glory blood-smeared earth. We all need something to help us unwind. At the end of the day, you might have a glass of wine, or a joint, or a big delicious blob of heroin to silence your silly brain box of us Witterins, but there has to be some form of punctuation, or life just seems utterly relentless. He was depressed. He was addicted to heroin, and I think there comes a time when all the beauty in the world just isn't enough. Comfort is beauty, muted by heroin. Sadness is beauty, drained by lack of it. I had someone at the Houston police station shoot me with heroin so I could do a story about it. The experience was a special kind of hell. I came out understanding full well how one could be addicted to smacking quickly. Sometimes your whole life could hinge on a fraction of an inch, or the beat of a nanosecond, or of a knock on a door, kind of made a male believe in the divine. It really did, just as a heroin addict chases a substance-induced high. Sex addicts are binging on chemicals, in this case, their own hormones. He had loved heroin more than it loved him. I was shocked beyond imagining. He was the first of all my friends to fall. Of course, agreed Basil, if you spit it carelessly, spitting relentlessly on heroin for all of eternity. I am not so much fun anymore. Couldn't carry the role of an ingenue in a bucket, you say laughing, and I want to punch you. I was never innocent, but thanks to you, I know things I wish I did not remember. You don't like it when I talk to the man myself, specifying quantities, and give him the money instead of giving it to you, and letting you take care of it. You keep asking me, where's the dope? Until I finally say I hit it. The look you give me is pure bile. Well, fuck you. This isn't like buying somebody a drink. You don't leave your stash out where I might find it. Finally think I've made you wait long enough, so I get out the little paper envelope and I hand it to you. You are still in charge of this part, so you relax performing your junkie ritual with your favorite razor blade until I ask you how to calculate my dose so I won't OD when I do this and you're not around. Then you really flip. You tell me it's a bad idea for me to do this with other people. Was it such a good idea for me to do it with you? Do you wait for me to turn up once every 3 months so you can get high? Is this our version of that famous lesbian fight about non-monogamy? Let me tell you what I don't like. I don't like it when you take forever to cut up brown powder and cook it down and suck it up into a needle and measure it, then take 3 times as much for yourself as you give me. I don't like it when you fuck me after you've taken the needle out of my arm. You talk too much and spoil my rush, and I really want to do is listen to the tides of blood wash round inside my body telling me everything is fine, fine, fine. And I certainly don't want to eat you or fuck you because it will take forever to make you come, if you can come at all. And by then the smack will have worn off and there isn't any more. I'm trying to remember what the part is that I do like. I think this shit likes me a lot more than I like it. Now you're hurt and angry because I don't want to see you again. And the truth is I would love to see you as long as I knew you were holding. So you tell me, is this what you want? I bet it was what you wanted all along. A junk sickness is the reverse side of junk kick. The kick of junk is that you have to have it. Junkies run on junk time and junk metabolism. They are subject to junk climate. They are warmed and chilled by junk. The kick of junk is living under junk conditions. You cannot escape from junk sickness any more than you can escape from junk kick after a shot. I don't spot junk neighborhoods by the way they look, but by the feel of somewhat the same process by which a doser locates hidden water. I am walking along and suddenly the junk in my cells moves and twitches like the drowsers wand. Junk here. Burroughs, Pyrrhus Ignou. His haircut is a cream. His left finger pinky chopped off for early Ignou. Reads his metaphysical spells, love spells with a psychoanalyst. His very junkhood to an accomplishment beyond $1 million. He was fallen between glacial walls. He didn't know how anyone could fall so far away from everyone else in the world, so far to fall, so cold all the way, so steep and dark between those morphine-colored walls. Beating heroin is child's play compared to beating your childhood. Without cigarettes, I'd be doing heroin, probably on a daily basis. Opium, that terrible truth serum, dark secrets guarded for a lifetime can be divulged with carefree folly after a sip of the black smoke. Anything to declare, the customs inspector said. A 2-pound of uncut heroin and a manual of pornographic art. Mark answered, looking about for Kitty. All Americans are comedians, the inspector thought as he passed Parker through. A government tourist, a hostess approached him. Are you Mr. Mark Parker? Guilty. I learned that it's okay to feel the way I do, that my life has no meaning unless I have a girlfriend. A real man is like the perfect vampire boy and all the perfect guys, and a woof. It was what she imagined doing heroin would be like, terrible for you, but impossible to resist. All the commas in my life used to be drugs or cigarettes. Get in the car, have a cig. Get out of the car, have a cig. After dinner, have a cig. Before food, have a cig. Have a chat to you have a cig. And you can start doing that with drugs as well. When your kid's dying from a brain tumor or leukemia, the whole community shows up. They bring casseroles. They pray for you. They send you cards. When your kid's on heroin, they don't hear from anybody until they die. Then everybody comes and they don't know what to say. Future brain chips will be bootlegged and to include the heroin option. Some people are killed by attempts to save their lives. I lose a breath while I'm thinking, misplace a second as it passes out of time. A splice of memories now missing. I think a moment passed where I forgot to die, and so this day is becoming high and tide that will take me home. Conceals a current running straight through hell. It caught me drifting from the world I know, broken crest on a rising swell, and surely hope is resigning. I think I'm waking from another dream. I won't remember how I made it out alive. The focus centers on uncertainty. The null and voids have become a way of life, and so myself is descending. After my sentencing from the judge, I started getting drug tested regularly. As a result, I had to stop smoking weed. In place of weed, I started doing other drugs that stayed in my system for shorter amounts of time and were harder to detect. I started with non-traceable substances like mushrooms, acid, and 2CB, a derivative of mescaline, but it quickly turned to hard drugs while weed was detectable on test for up to a month. Hard drugs were only traceable for a few days or a week at most. Ironically, the drug tests, which were meant to discourage me from drug use, turn me on to hard drugs. Maybe art's just a mode of escapism, but I'll take that. It's certainly a lot cheaper, not to mention safer than heroin. You can smack me up with art any day. He was ready to take a pothead, alcoholic, heroin addicted, a warmonger, a bulimic, cigarette smoker, womanizer, and formed a deepest type of bond that could be made and had no exit clauses or reversals. He had pursued me when others would have given up 1,000 times. He made a covenant with me, signed by a pen, dipped in his own blood, a covenant forged by his love, and through his love, it is a love story written by the author of the universe. I am like pure heroin. I need to be cut with poetry to be potent enough to get you high. but not deadly enough to kill your ability to understand me. I am tripping. I am high on all the drugs for all of eternity. Spit into thee. I am high on all the drugs. Thy infinite me is high on all the drugs for all of eternity. Spit into thee. I wanted to meet the monster. Why go down if you can go up? I can pretty much guarantee that you will at some point find yourself doing something that at one point you swore you never do. You'll do it for the sake of getting high, either directly or indirectly. Trust me, it will happen. You might think you know yourself better than anyone, but you have yet to become acquainted with your addiction. It will introduce itself in ways that you never thought were possible. My main concern was my teeth because they were in constant pain. Meth depletes the body of calcium, the vitamin essential to maintain a healthy teeth. It also includes acidic ingredients that can damage teeth. The ingredients include, but are not limited to, the battery acid, Drano, over-the-counter cold medications like Sudafed, antifreeze, engine starter fluid, and breaker fluid. Basically pop the hood of your car and you can find the ingredients you need to cook meth. I'm no dentist, but I came to the conclusion that was the root of my tooth pain. Everyone thinks I do heroin. It's not even true. I do crystal meth. Don't get me wrong. Sacramento is a lovely place, particularly for those with a fondness for methamphetamines, for the meth-addled. Sacramento, and conveniently placed a Greyhound bus station just yards from the state house where Austria's finest sworn, and a governor of the great state of California, Harley Davidson, a fanatic. He owed two of them, he told me proudly. They were Chinese vampires. They were discovered during renovation work at the Boccaya temple in Old Sacramento. One of the priests were told his brother about them. The brothers, whatever the Chinese version of mobbed up is, Alex here, thinks he's using them to distract Nortenos and the Black Dragons long enough to take over the marijuana trade in Sacramento, using the stuff they're making in a bunch of grow houses in Elk Grove. Ted stared at me. And will the Chinese vampires be joined by legions of Korean werewolves who have been cooking meth in trailer parks in Truckee? No, the werewolves are refusing to get involved. Trust me, I've tried to talk them into helping. They'll have nothing to do with it. I smoked my first pipe with Seth. I knew the stuff was bad, but I was so tired of being the cop, begging and ragging at him, throwing Pampers in his face when he walked in the door. I wanted to be on the same side again, so I smoked with Seth one afternoon when the girls were napping. And oh my God, I can only think about this for a minute, or every part of me will turn into a mouth wanting more the sexiness of it. Fucking Seth, fucking her like a wild for the first time in months, going on even when the girl started to whimper and bang on the door, and then looking out the window and seeing the world shake itself to life, the heavy trees, the sky, and I was back on top. We were going to make it, Seth and I. The voice in my head was back again, telling me stories too many to write down or even to tell one from another. We invariably came back to testing as a means of understanding drug use, even though assuming these tests led to truth puts on one on a shaky ground. You simply cannot prove something to be true or false if the means of confirmation are easily questioned. Consider how the National Survey on Drug Use and Health concludes every 4 years how many meth addicts there are in the United States. First, surveyors ask employers to give their employees a questionnaire on drug use. The survey asks employees whether they have done amphetamines, not specifically methamphetamines, in their lifetime in the last year or in the last 6 months. First, it seems unlikely that drug addicts will take this completely optional test, will answer truthfully if they do take it, and will even be at work in the first place as opposed to home cooking meth. Further, since methamphetamine is just one of a broad class of stimulants in the amphetamine family, an answer of yes to the question about using one amphetamine can be taken as an answer of yes to using another. And yet, for the study purposes, anyone who says they've done any kind of amphetamine in the last 6 months is considered addicted to amphetamines. And in a way that is impossible to understand, a certain percentage of these responders is deemed addicted to crank. It's sad that burnt marshmallows make me think of methamphetamine when they should bring back childhood memories of s'mores. I want to be a good, a do good, be a worker among workers, a friend among friends. But there's also this part of me that is so dissatisfied with everything. If I'm not living on the verge of death, I feel like I'm not really living. The longest I ever stayed up on meth was something like 14 days. I started seeing these little creatures in my house. They looked so real to me that to this very day, I could swear I actually saw them. They weren't these little men who looked like Stretch Armstrong dolls, but green. They were being manufactured under my house. They came up out of the ground and ran around my living room, and I would run around my house chasing them and shooting my gun at them. Sometimes I hit one in a dive, and all of a sudden the wall opened up and the creatures grabbed him and dragged him back inside so I couldn't show anybody. That's why nobody else could see them but me. Nobody else could see these demons but me. Spitting for all of eternity on methamphetamines. Nobody else can see these demons but me. Spitting for all of eternity on methamphetamines. I am that infinite me, high on all the drugs for all of eternity. Methamphetamine. The question, tile, American drug, American housewives, head of state, businessmen, and poets alike have acquired a taste for the yellow crystalline powder. Everything from Hitler to President Kennedy to Elvis to Jack Kerouac indulged in one of its many forms, and its presence had been an invisible hand shaping events, preparing the ground for the strongest drug epidemic the world has ever seen. Methamphetamine is a hideous drug. Meth makes a person become paranoid, violent, and aggressive, but not me on methamphetamine, making them a serious threat to society and law enforcement. And maybe more importantly, meth users are a threat to their own children and families. Spending for eternity on methamphetamines is the infinite me. I am high on all the drugs for infinity. By infinite me is high on all the drugs for eternity. Spit into the sophisticated vocabulary, use my adequate, documented, education, my psychological incompetence, reality, and elaborate, insane, completely adamant, randomly, scotched, accurately, incoherently, Ramin neutral, and subject anti-substitutarianism, supercalifragilisticexpialidocianism, methamphetamine, hypnosis, yo. You tell me, you my friend, about whiskey and a demonic combo that can lead you to death. Whiskey and crystal meth make you think you are strong, make you feel invincible. You can do no wrong. Whiskey and meth, forget all the rules. They were made for weaklings, cowards, and fools. Whiskey and meth make night into day until one is the other, and you lose your way. Whiskey and meth make you anxious for strife. You load your pistols, you sharpen your knife. Whiskey and meth, this cost me my wife, this cost me my children, this cost me my life. Whiskey and meth attract the law, and into its clutches you will certainly fall. So that's my story of whiskey and meth. Leave them alone or prepare for death, hence the meth. Spitting again and again, riflemen, the kale. Water is to a tiny basket liners, as strained, yo-yo strain is to a dark wool glowing, is to oldest lost oddity, as first a genetic engine is to a black quail tank, is to a nut curdled paint, as hemp, a biscuit, dominoes are to a steam, a trace paper is to lemon ash vapor, as digital meth, a wig is to eccentric brine, mimes are to electric silk, a slacks, as spark formed, lava is to a sun-choked black hornets, are to as rescued orphan doves, as retold cat jokes are to, hand traced videos are to a braided rubber, spines, as opal, rain dancers are to halogen, anchor gone is to annoying bread, portraits, as soft bracelet lockers are to old troll bios are to select cherub echoes, as broken matchstick paracels are to a dome, nine chariots are to afraid lunar romance, as a fume honey flasks are to a blue and assault. Operas as to beaten fluted flowers, as magnetic lawn, tweezers are to converted, fleece sponges are to a floating dog, merles as frozen Archie comics are to a molded road, pads are to a crusty gumdrop Fred, as straw, a ribbed, pelicans are to inflatable, a diamond vowel is to a single Jenner raffle, as groovy desert coffee is to temporary solution, radiation is to idiotic witness mumble, as a motorized marshmallow kit is to a panoramic utopian paranoia is to aggravated meth silhouettes, as unhinged gun sellers are to homesick ghost pajamas is to a virtuous fly. I'm high, I'm meth for life. A fungus has royal sandpaper gloves are to a gangster hayride tickets are to a deer milk Oreos, as a turnip fairies maps are to a glue gun meth is to nocturnal cabin mice, as cab flare is corn to a speckled fish nickels are to underwater a bric-a-brac, as epic, a snakeskin, paisley is to meth, a bungalow, pranks are to a drowsy, vapid oafs, as a quantinized caverns fish are to a raunchy snail, kimono is to coiled time dice, as smeared equator malts is to I'm high, hence the math for life, spitting infinite rhymes, has sophisticated vocabulary, use my adequate education, my psychological incompetence, this validating, elaborate, understanding, completely adamant, ramming, consciously, accurately, incoherently, armenian, neutral, unsubject, anti-status, disestablishmentarianism, supercapitalist, biodocenatism, methamphetamine, hypnotism, I'm high, I'm math for life, spit infinite rhymes, by infinite me, is high in all the drugs, forever for eternity, spit into thee.